Chapter 1. My fiancé still loves his ex-wife, who he divorced years ago, but that hasn't stopped him from pursuing me. He thinks I'm clueless, but I know everything. Last month, he claimed to be on a business trip for a week, but he actually took his ever-childish ex-wife to Shanghai Disneyland. When he returned, he acted as if nothing had happened, discussing marriage plans with me as if all was normal. Little does he know, ever since I found out about his ongoing attachment to his ex-wife Sophia, I've been planning not to go through with the wedding. I met Leo through a matchmaking arrangement set up by Sandra, a friend of my parents. She told them that Leo was a divorced, childless high-level executive, a real white-collar professional. My parents were thrilled by this prospect and had the matchmaker bring him over immediately. Despite his divorce, Leo's refined demeanor and gentlemanly manners won them over instantly. They couldn't wait for us to get married. I was indifferent about the arranged meeting, but Leo charmed my parents, and I found myself warming up to him, thinking that maybe having such a harmonious family life wouldn't be so bad after all. I've kept Leo's lingering ties with his ex-wife secret from my parents, who still hold him in high regard. When I got home from work, my dad looked behind me, obviously disappointed. "Why didn't you bring Leo home for dinner?" As I took off my shoes, I explained, "He has his job, and I have mine. We couldn't coordinate our schedules today." On Sunday, discuss with Leo about inviting his parents over so we can talk about your wedding, my dad suggested. "Okay, I will," I replied as I grabbed my bag and headed toward my room. Then asked casually, "Dad, why did Sandra suddenly think to set me up?" He answered, "I mentioned to her that you were a high-level executive at Boat, and she knew someone's son who would be perfect for you. Marcia, Leo is a good man. Don't be too picky," my mom said as she came out of the kitchen with 2 dishes. "At your age, and with your workaholic tendencies, how else are you going to get married if not through matchmaking?" "I'm not being picky. We're just getting to know each other," I said somewhat distractedly during dinner. "Why did Sandra rush to set me up with someone as soon as she heard I work at Boat?" "Tomorrow, I'll go and ask her about it. You both should get along fine. I think Leo is quite a catch," my dad added. I nodded automatically, then seized the opportunity to bring up, "Oh, by the way, parents, Leo has a business trip this week, and I do too. Coincidentally on the same flight. We'll come over for dinner once we're back. When you get married, you should quit your job," my mom declared authoritatively. I gave no confirmation or denial. This marriage is not happening, and I'm not planning to quit my job. The next day, I went looking for Sandra, only to find out she had gone to Shanghai. What a coincidence. I overheard Sandra's neighbor chatting with someone else. Sandra said her son works at a big company, Boat, and he makes tens of thousands a month. Isn't that so? And last month, her son took her to Shanghai to see his wife and grandson. I caught their conversation but didn't quite grasp all of it. It seems Sandra went to reunite with her son, daughter-in-law, and grandson. I won't disturb her now. I'll go to Shanghai to take care of the business I have planned. Chapter 2. Sophia was there with a little boy, a few years old. She wasn't strikingly beautiful, but she had a mature charm that made her likable. She was playing bumper cars with the little boy. I searched for Leo nearby, and to avoid being recognized, I wore a blonde wig and large sunglasses to cover my face, and dressed in newly bought Western-style clothing. After a while, I finally found Sandra sitting under an umbrella in a shaded spot. Leo was at a nearby snack bar buying 2 ice cream cones. He walked over and naturally handed one to Sandra, and I quickly snapped a photo with my phone. I took the umbrella, found a spot near them in the shade, sat down, and turned on my phone's recorder. Leo's voice came through. "Mom, if I marry Marcia, she'll eventually find out about our relationship. Just don't let her know, right? I've already checked. Boat values its executives highly. As long as Marcia recommends you, there won't be any problem getting into Boat," Sandra replied. I lay under the umbrella, resting with my eyes closed. Sophia and the little boy, after a round of games, walked over. "Mom, Leo, let's play the next game together. Lucas has been looking forward to playing with you," she said. "Daddy," the little boy, called Lucas, said sweetly. Leo fondly agreed. "Lucas, good boy." Such a sweet family. Anyone would envy them. It just makes you wonder what Sophia's husband would think knowing his son has another dad. I sent the photo of Sophia and her son to my friend Eric, asking him to contact Sophia's husband as soon as possible. I also sent over Sophia's address and her current location. The words of Sandra's neighbor echoed in my ears. Sandra went to Shanghai to reunite with her son, daughter-in-law, and grandson. I initially thought Sandra's reunion was none of my business, but I couldn't help myself and sent a message to my dad. Dad, did you know Sandra is Leo's mom? My dad immediately replied to my WeChat message. How is that possible? Sandra is a lonely old woman with no children. Maybe Leo is her godson. Well, godson could be an explanation. I sent him another message. Then why don't you call Sandra and ask her to come over for dinner? Thinking I wanted to thank Sandra for introducing me to someone, my dad agreed without hesitation. Sandra's phone rang, and she answered cheerfully. Nestor, I'm out of town right now. I joined a seniors tour group, and I'll be away for a week. You said Marcia invited me over for dinner? Okay, I'll come by after my trip. Sandra and Leo schemed together to deceive me. If they succeeded, that would be my fault for being gullible, but they should never have deceived my parents. My parents have loved each other their entire lives, and they only had one child because they followed the government's one-child policy. Their biggest wish now is to see me get married. Maybe after hanging up, Sandra casually said, Marcia's family is so naive. They'll never find out about our relationship. And you don't even look like me. I thought about it and then sent the information about Sandra and Leo to my friend Eric, asking him to investigate their relationship. Eric suggested that I get strands of their hair, and he would take care of the rest. Chapter 3. Mom, I'm bleeding from the nose, Lucas yelled. Leo, Sandra, and Sophia all scrambled to respond. How did you start bleeding? Quick, wipe it off. Let's go to the hospital. I noticed they discarded a bloodied tissue on the ground, and for the first time in my life, I was thankful for someone's lack of manners. The three adults hurriedly took Lucas away, and I grabbed a plastic bag to pick up the tissue. I followed them from a distance, watching as they got into a taxi. I hailed one myself and immediately called Eric. Can you locate Sophia's husband? He replied regretfully. He's out of town, even with the location. He can't get here. Why are you suddenly so keen on catching someone else's affair? I could hear his curiosity, and somewhat helplessly replied, It's also for myself. Someone introduced this woman's ex-husband to me. My parents really like him and are pushing us to get married. This man meets up with his ex-wife and son in Shanghai for a week every month during his business trips. Damn. Wait. I can make the current cuckold rush home, Eric said before hanging up quickly. In the taxi, I changed into a different colored wig but didn't change my clothes. I continued following the trio to the hospital. The pediatric department was crowded, and Lucas continued to bleed, discarding several bloodied tissues. I captured a photo of Sandra, Leo, and Sophia bustling around Lucas and sent it to my friend. I'm heading home. In a few days, I'll send you their hair and the kids' blood sample. Watching any further would only upset me, so I continued with my business trip. When I got back, my dad pulled me aside on the balcony. You said Leo is Sandra's son. You have proof, right? Didn't you distrust me before? Why suddenly ask about this? I looked at my dad in surprise, noticing how much more haggard he appeared than just a few days ago, with deep dark circles that spoke of his recent stress. Dad rubbed his forehead and said, We've known Sandra for so many years, and she never mentioned setting you up with someone. Suddenly, after finding out where you work, she introduces someone with such good credentials. Although your mother and I hope you'll marry soon, we don't want to push you into something bad. I reassured him. Don't worry. I have the ability to discern. If I think it's appropriate, I'll continue with him. If not, you shouldn't have high expectations. That's true. How could someone perfect just appear out of nowhere without any effort? My dad said, sounding even more disheartened. Leo really seems quite good. Is Leo just seemingly good? His public demeanor is practically perfect. If my best friend hadn't accidentally witnessed that harmonious and happy family scene at Disney, I wouldn't have known that Leo still loves his ex-wife Sophia and is only interested in my status. Just relax. Mom and Dad, it'll be the same as before. If it's not suitable, I'll be the one to suggest breaking up, I said, thinking that I must present irrefutable evidence to Leo to prevent him from pestering me. My mom looked at me with eyes full of guilt. That's right. Just watch a little longer. Maybe he's not so bad, right? Mom hadn't given up on Leo yet, practically already viewing him as her son-in-law. I merely smiled lightly. Non-committal. Chapter 4. I immediately picked up my phone and arranged a 1-month European tour for my parents, planning to send them off once Sandra came over for dinner. I hadn't let slip a single word in advance. Blind dating is such an unreliable affair. It's essentially forcing two strangers together and hoping sparks fly. True to her word, Sandra arrived on time. I offered her a necklace to try on while helping her put it on. I managed to pluck a couple of hairs with the roots. Oh dear. This necklace doesn't seem to fit. I can't get it to clasp. I'll switch it out next time. Sandra's greedy gaze subtly swept over the necklace in my hand, expressing a veiled regret. I appreciate the thought, dear. No need to go to any expense. I wasn't planning on spending anything. I just muttered something non-committal and returned to my room. I carefully wrapped the 2 hairs and placed them with the blood-stained tissue. Now, I just needed Leo's hair, Aunt Sandra. Next time you join a travel group, take my parents with you. They're so bored at home. And since you're all old friends, it'll be more fun. And you can look after each other. How forgetful of me. How did I not think of that? Sandra pretended as if the idea had just occurred to her. Nestor. Next time the 3 of us should join a group. It's better to have acquaintances to talk to. Otherwise, being with strangers is just uncomfortable. I'm not very keen on going out. My dad declined. He liked fishing and could spend a whole day at it. Sandra then said to my mom, once Marcia gets married, you two can relax. That's for sure. My mom agreed easily. This child is all about work. I've been looking forward to her getting married. Look at people her age. Their kids are already fetching soy sauce. Wasn't Leo's son, born post-divorce, already in kindergarten and literally able to fetch soy sauce? Young people have their pursuits. Leo is a workaholic. His ex-wife just divorced him. Marcia is a workaholic too. They must have a lot in common. Sandra redirected the conversation back to Leo after a few sentences. If Leo was such a workaholic, where did he find the time to pursue me? Or the time to meet his ex-wife and son every month? My parents were not keen to bring up Leo, but my dad asked her directly, Sandra, what about you? Why don't you find a companion? If you had a few kids when you were younger, you wouldn't be alone now in your old age. Sandra looked visibly uncomfortable, being single. How free it feels. I used to think the same way, that being alone was more comfortable. I picked up where Sandra left off. My parents are constantly pushing me. I'm so busy with work. Where do I have time for romance? If I had a child, there'd be no one to help them as they get older. Why not just hire a nanny? With your high salary, you could afford 2, one to take care of your parents and another for your child. Wouldn't that be great? Sandra said, unwittingly revealing too much. Even my own parents don't know how much I earn. They have no idea about the extent of my finances. My parents don't like the idea of having a nanny. If they did, I'd have moved out and lived at the office long ago. Why need a nanny? They are so expensive. Besides, haven't you seen online how some nannies treat the elderly and children? Anyway, your father and I don't want one. Don't even think about it. My mom immediately objected. We don't need you to look after us in the future either. We'll go to a nursing home. We have our pensions. We don't need your support. Chapter 5. Sandra was persistently trying to convince my parents to accept the idea of hiring a nanny. Just then, my phone rang. It was Leo. I answered casually. You're back from your business trip? Want to take me to a movie? Sure. He's practically delivering hair samples to me. Perfect. After telling them I was going out to watch a movie with Leo, Sandra quickly made her excuses. I've been here half the day already. I should get going. She left cheerfully. As soon as she was out the door, my mom's face fell. You decide how to spend your salary. We never meddled, but she sure had plans for it. I hugged her and playfully said, Mom, unless I willingly give out money, who can take it from me? You little miser. My mom sighed. I just hope Sandra's involvement with us isn't with ulterior motives. I hope not too. But it's too late, I'm going to the movies with Leo. You guys should rest early. I'll head back to my apartment tonight. Getting Leo's hair was easy as he always falls asleep during movies. Without fail, especially since he just spent a week with his ex-wife and son and had just gotten off a plane. Every time he lands, he asks me out to a movie. I'm tired of it, but he seems to enjoy it, successfully securing a sample of Leo's hair. I left the cinema without looking back. Eric was waiting for me. It wasn't easy getting access to the lab. Let's get this done tonight. I handed him the blood-stained tissue, the child's blood. And then Leo's and Sandra's hair samples. This is Leo's. And this one is from who I suspect is his biological mother. Man, you went on a matchmaking date and ended up doing undercover work? Eric took the samples, starting the tests while saying, I got Sophia's husband to cut his trip short and come home. He saw the pictures of Leo and Sophia together. What's your next move? Next month, I will confront them with him. Of course, what else would I do with people like that? I remembered the kid's continuous nosebleeds. Non-stop nosebleeds must indicate some illness, right? Probably, but it would need tests to confirm. Using this blood sample, Eric placed the tissue in a colorless solution. Many conditions can cause nosebleeds. Next month, I'll go to Shanghai with you. Eric stared at the test tube, not looking up. It's a whole family against you. I don't want you to be at a disadvantage. Eric and I grew up together, and we knew each other very well. I agreed. It's my first time dealing with this kind of situation, and I'm a bit nervous. Mainly, I worry they might harass my parents or impact my job. That's why I arranged a month-long trip to Europe for my parents. Actually, you should let your parents know what kind of person Leo is, so they won't set you up with another guy like him. Eric suggested as he drew a droplet from the solution with a pipette and placed it under the microscope. The owner of this blood sample has a disease. It appears to be genetic, meaning one of his parents, either the father or the mother, must be a dominant or recessive carrier. Chapter 6. I don't understand medicine, so Eric's explanation left me confused. He then handed me 2 paternity test reports. The 2 hair samples confirm a genetic relationship of 99.9%. But the blood sample shows no blood relation to Leo. Zing! Leo tirelessly spent a week each month with the child, yet he had no actual relation to him. I realized something. This child might not even belong to Sophia's current husband. Eric glanced at me disdainfully. Don't worry about the rich. I've already contacted him. He's taken the child for a paternity test even quicker than you could. We'll head over a day early next month. After all this help, I guess I'm entitled to crash at your place. Right? Of course. No problem. But you'll have to wait a month. You know I can only boil water and order takeout. My culinary skills are limited to instant noodles. Eric didn't even bother to roll his eyes. You say that. But I can do that too. So, a month from now. And don't you dare try to get busy on me. My phone rang, and seeing Leo's name on the display, I casually answered. You fell asleep halfway through the movie. Couldn't wake you. So I went to the night market by myself. Don't bother looking for me. I'll head home on my own. After hanging up, Eric spoke up. I'll give you a ride home. Perfect. I didn't drive. I didn't hesitate to accept his offer. Have you had dinner yet? I ordered takeout. Eric then handed me another lab report. I conducted another test. Based on my analysis, one of the child's parents must also have the same condition. Well, you needn't worry about it. The kid has his own parents. I waved my phone at Eric. Let's head to my apartment. My parents are probably asleep by now. Eric quickly packed up the lab equipment and locked up the lab. He retrieved the car keys from my bag. After all this, your parents won't set you up on blind dates so casually anymore, will they? They might stop setting me up on random blind dates, but they won't give up entirely. I smiled bitterly. My parents are eager to have grandchildren. But where am I supposed to pull one out from? I understand how you feel. My family has been pressuring me lately too. Otherwise, I wouldn't be hiding out in the lab. Eric looked distressed. What's so great about blind dates anyway? Look at what you ended up with. I thought for a moment and said to Eric, I don't know Leo well enough to judge him. But there's one thing I'm sure of. He wants to marry me to leverage his way into Boat. With my position in the company, they'd consider my spouse's placement. I own 5% of Boat's original shares. There's no way Boat would agree to let me resign. Eric muttered under his breath. Why do you have less original shares than I do? I have 8%. It's just a small difference. Oh, and make sure to watch your money, Mr. Straightforward Scientist, so you don't get scammed. I patted his head. Let's keep the fact that we hold original shares to ourselves. If people find out, you can kiss your quiet lab life goodbye. Eric didn't respond to that but said instead, Leo's eager to switch jobs. I want to investigate whether there's something shady at his previous company. He probably just heard that Boat offers great benefits. I said, better to have something on Leo, just in case he can't get through you and tries to go through someone else. Eric dialed a number. Is there someone named Leo in your company? Chapter 7. Eric asked a friend to look into Leo at his company, so all I had to do was wait for the information. The next day after work, I drove straight home to help my parents pack their bags. My mom was cooking in the kitchen. Marcia, what are you rummaging through in our room? My dad noticed me packing a suitcase and searching for documents. Honey, come quick. My mom had to turn off the stove and come to the bedroom. Marcia, what's gotten into you? Passports. Where are your passports? I signed you up for a travel group. You two can go enjoy yourselves without having to envy anyone. I quickly packed my parents' luggage and handed them the travel group vouchers along with the plane tickets. My dad finally caught on. If we leave, you'll be alone. What if they bully you? We'd better stay home to help you. Eric will help me. It's just a breakup, not a divorce. You two go enjoy your trip. I'll swiftly cut off Sandra's connection to our family and make sure Leo stops bothering me. I coaxed my mom into finding their documents and sent them off to the airport shuttle. I don't want my parents to worry about me. I'm used to handling everything myself. Leo isn't really a problem, just an insignificant episode. But he made the mistake of targeting my parents. I'm my parents' weak spot, just as they are my reverse scale. It's one thing to deceive me, but don't you dare deceive them. Leo will have to pay for this. When Leo showed up again to have dinner with my parents, only I was home, eating instant noodles. Marcia, where are Auntie and Uncle? Hearing him call me Marcia made me feel repulsed. A few days ago, Sandra signed up for a seniors travel group and went away for a week. My parents were envious, so they signed up and left too. Instant noodles aren't nutritious. Let me take you out for dinner, and I'll stay over tonight to keep you company. Leo reached out to take my bowl of noodles. I picked up the bowl, dodging his hand. I'm already full. If you want to eat, go on your own. I don't need you to keep me company. Leo sat down beside me, gently placing his hand on my leg. We've been together for so long. Are you really heartless enough to kick me out? His hand, gentle and subtle, tested the waters. Of course. I'm being heartless. We've only just met. It's not appropriate for you to stay here. I stood up and moved away from him. Leo, we're not that close yet. Didn't we just talk about marriage not long ago? Is it because I've been traveling for work too much lately? I'll talk to the company and try to reduce my business trips so I can spend more time with you. You know, it's not like I have much say over the work schedule, Leo said, blocking my path. Marcia, I travel a lot too, so I understand that. But what I don't understand is why you need to stay over. I looked at Leo coldly, not bothering to hide my displeasure as he approached. We've only just met. Talking about marriage in a blind date context is just about setting expectations, not a commitment to marry right away. Aren't you getting ahead of yourself? We've known each other for months. How can you say we just met? From the time we started dating, we've both been satisfied with each other, Leo insisted, not backing down. Isn't talking about marriage just the natural next step? Chapter 8. Your phone is ringing. I pointed to his pocket, which was vibrating nonstop. You should answer it first. Leo took out his phone, glanced at the screen, and quickly hung up before putting it back in his pocket. Just a spam call. You don't need to explain. You should go home. I don't like having people stay over. Leo was standing too close, giving me a sense of danger. In my hand, I only had a half-eaten bowl of instant noodles and a plastic fork. The familiar buzzing sound came again. This time, I didn't say anything. Leo frowned, pulled out his phone, and dismissed the call again. If I wasn't mistaken, the caller ID on his screen said wife. You should answer it. Just in case it's something urgent, I said, quickly moving away from Leo and heading into the kitchen when his phone started vibrating again. I gave Leo some space. He glanced at me, then took his phone and walked out to the balcony. I'm busy right now. I'll call you back when I'm done. Leo hung up and walked back towards me. It was just work. Nothing urgent. Let's continue our conversation. I'm pretty busy lately, so I don't have time to discuss personal matters. You should leave, I said, pointing to the door. I need to get some rest. Leo took a couple more steps towards me, but then his phone chimed with several text notifications in a row, and he couldn't keep his calm expression anymore. We'll talk about the marriage issue when we have more time. Finally, I got Leo out the door. He hurriedly walked down the stairs, already on the phone again, speaking in a low voice. Mom, call Sophia and ask her what's going on. I was just talking to Marcia, and she kept calling me. I couldn't ignore it, but I also didn't want Marcia to hear. I've been traveling too much, and now Marcia's upset. I quietly opened the door and stood in the hallway, watching him as he spoke, covering the phone's mouthpiece with his hand. Marry him? He can keep dreaming. I was now even more eager to meet Sophia's current husband. Nearly a month had passed since Leo's last business trip, and he asked me out for lunch. I have a business trip next week. I've talked to the company, and after this trip, I'll be traveling less. I'll make time for you to get to know me better. All right. Let's talk when you get back. I'm planning to study intensively for a few days, so I might not have my phone on. I gave Leo a reasonable excuse for not staying in touch. Just send me a message when you can. I'll be busy on the trip too, so I might not reply right away. Leo quickly took advantage of my words. He's so used to acting that when he goes to reunite with his ex-wife, he makes it sound like he's just busy on a work trip. If it weren't for my calm demeanor, I might have already lost patience and exposed him. Take your time eating. I've already paid the bill. I have something else to do, so I'm leaving. I'll transfer the money to you on WeChat later. Leo reached for his phone, but I was already up and leaving. Eric told me that Leo's company is planning to downsize certain departments. Unless something changes, Leo is likely one of the people to be let go. He's facing either a reassignment or a layoff. So Leo thinks he can use me as a stepping stone to change his fate? He can keep dreaming. Chapter 9. After confirming Leo's business trip dates and location, Shanghai, I started paying attention to Sandra's movements. Sandra also went to Shanghai. Once I confirmed that, Eric and I arrived in Shanghai a day before Leo. We met Sophia's current husband, Daniel, a very shrewd-looking middle-aged man who was well-preserved. Despite his low spirits, he remained composed and politely said to me, Marcia, Eric mentioned that you have some photos? I handed him my phone. These are photos I took when I came to Shanghai last month. I personally heard that boy named Lucas call Leo dad. Daniel scrolled through the photos on my phone. Could you send me copies of these photos? I like to include date stamps when I take photos, so the dates were right there on the pictures, making them indisputable. I sent them to Daniel right away. What do you plan to do? I'll go on my business trip as usual. I've already arranged for someone to keep an eye on them. We can go together when the time comes, Daniel said in a low voice. The son I've been raising for years has no relation to me at all. I pulled out a piece of paper from my bag. Lucas isn't related to Sophia's ex-husband either. Daniel's face twitched slightly as he sat up straighter, scrutinizing me. Why are you doing this? How much money do you want? I know you're wealthy, but I'm not exactly poor myself. I understood what Daniel meant. He thought I had ulterior motives. I sat up straight and met Daniel's gaze without hesitation. Recently, someone introduced me to a potential partner, Sophia's ex-husband, Leo. He's very good at charming my parents, but his eagerness was a bit too much, so I started looking into his personal life. He told me he goes on business trips once a month, each lasting a week. The person who introduced him to me is supposedly childless. During my investigation, I discovered that she is Leo's biological mother, so I dug a bit deeper. By now, you should realize I have no hidden agenda. They deceived my parents and me, and I'm just protecting myself. I found you because I want to cut off their escape route completely. People with poor character don't deserve a second chance. I hate when people approach me with ulterior motives. Just like you, Daniel's expression relaxed a bit. I was overthinking it. His phone screen lit up, and he glanced at it. His expression grew colder. They've left. I patted Eric, who was dozing off beside me. It's time for us to go. Eric yawned. They really are masters of time management. Didn't waste a second. Let's see how this true love couple reacts when they face the present spouse. I sneered. I wonder where Leo gets the nerve to talk to me about marriage. Leo, with his family of 4, bought tickets and entered Disneyland. Sandra, holding Lucas, couldn't contain her joy. My sweet grandson, you haven't seen Grandma for a month. Did you miss Grandma? Lucas replied in a loud, clear voice. I missed Grandma. Did you miss Daddy? Leo, with his arm around Sophia's shoulder, gave Lucas a kiss on the cheek. Suddenly, he froze mid-action. A few people from various angles were taking pictures of the family of 4. Sophia saw Daniel and screamed, shoving Leo away. Honey, let me explain. Leo saw me standing next to Daniel. His mouth opened. Marcia, let me explain. Sandra covered her face and tried to run, but 2 large men grabbed her shoulders. Our boss didn't give you permission to leave. Chapter 10. Daniel raised his hand and slapped Sophia across the face. I've been raising a bastard for years. Is this how you show your love for me? Leo hurriedly tried to explain, but I smiled at him. No need to rush. Leo, Lucas isn't your son either. You might want to ask Sophia about that. Sophia, holding her face, looked panicked. Honey, this child is yours. We were together at that time. Daniel sneered. I've already done a paternity test with that little bastard. He's not my son, and he's not your ex-husband's either. I didn't realize your life was so eventful. I underestimated you. Lucas isn't my son? How is that possible? Leo stared at Sophia in shock. Didn't you say he was my son? Sandra, who was trying to flee, turned on Sophia as soon as she heard that Lucas wasn't her grandson. She slapped Sophia several times, yelling, You wretch! All these years, we've given you money whenever you asked, and we came every month to spend time with you and Lucas. But he's just a bastard? Give me back my money! TSK. I think I'll just sit down and watch for now. Sophia screamed. Honey, the paternity test must be wrong. Lucas is your child. Mom, stop hitting her. I never told you Lucas was Leo's son. I only said I had a son. Daniel said coldly. Lucas has a genetic disorder. Neither you nor I have it. So that means his biological father does. Why don't you go ahead and dig through your list of connections and find this man, okay? Genetic disorder? Leo's face turned black, then purple. He had been protecting Sophia from Sandra's blows, but now he let go. You couldn't even spare our neighbor? Even rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrow. And I was her boss. Daniel sneered. It seems she's got a habit of eating that grass. Well, you're free to go find other grass to munch on. He instructed his people. Get rid of all Sophia's personal belongings. Neither she nor her son is allowed to set foot in my house ever again. Call the lawyer. Sophia committed adultery during our marriage. She's leaving with nothing. Sophia's hair was disheveled, and her face was scratched from Sandra's attack. Hearing that Daniel wanted to divorce her, she panicked and pleaded. Honey, I love you. You can't do this to me. I am rich, but I'm not an idiot. Daniel's face was full of disgust. You had me raise a bastard for years, and you still have the nerve to say you love me? At this point, Leo turned his attention to me, looking embarrassed. Marcia, can we talk about our situation later? Ha, you still haven't given up on the idea of marrying me and using me to get into boat? You and your mother's little scheme isn't finished yet? I sneered. Leo instinctively glanced at Sandra, then quickly tried to look away. Still pretending? I looked at Sandra and said, Sandra, what should I call you now? I am not Leo's mother. You're mistaken. Sandra, her face scratched by Sophia, hurried to explain. Leo tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. I had a paternity test done for you and Sandra too. The mention of the words paternity test made Leo's face change dramatically. Marcia, why are you doing this to me? Haven't I treated you well? If your mother didn't know I worked at Boat, would you have gone on that blind date with me? I said coldly. You couldn't secure your job. So you thought you could use boat's rules to take a shortcut. You're smart. But other people aren't idiots either. I didn't get to where I am by being naive. I wish you and your family a happy reunion. Eric. Let's go. I walked away with Eric. Leo humiliated Daniel by cuckolding him. And Daniel wouldn't let him off easily. Was Eric who told me what happened afterward. Sophia didn't remarry Leo. Instead, she went to find Lucas's biological father. But it turned out he had died from illness. Leo's mother blamed Sophia for causing Leo to lose a high-ranking wife and constantly harassed her. I found it amusing. Are they still dreaming? I don't care if Leo has given up or not. But after my parents returned from their trip abroad, they were quiet for a while, then started trying to arrange blind dates for me again. Ugh. Asking for advice online, how can a single female executive avoid blind dates?